Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I'll be analyzing the case of Becky Fox-Doerr. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Elizabeth Joanne Fox-Doerr was born in January 1972 and lived in Evansville, Indiana. She went by the name Becky. Until the age of 4, when she was adopted, Becky was in the foster care system. She had a sister named Amanda Fillmore, who went by the name Mandy. As an adult, Becky had a tumultuous romantic history. She was married 5 times. When she was working at a restaurant called Taco John's, she met a coworker named Robert Doerr, who went by the name Robbie. He had been born in June 1967. In addition to working full-time at a taco restaurant, Robbie was a firefighter. This may seem like a disconnect, like 2 careers that don't go together. However, both Robbie's career choices involved the constant threat of a lethal backdraft. The couple became romantically involved, and Becky decided to marry for the 6th time. Becky and Robbie lived in a 748-square-foot 2-bedroom house on Oakley Street in Evansville. On occasion, the couple would spend time with Becky's sister Mandy and Mandy's boyfriend, Larry Richmond Sr. Larry Sr. was a convicted killer. In 1996, when he was 17 years old, he shot and killed a 70-year-old man. He was sentenced to 45 years in prison, but was released in March 2018 after serving just 22 years. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On February 26, 2019, at 7:05 p.m., the first of a few 911 calls were placed regarding gunshots being heard outside Robbie's house. Becky was one of the people who called. She told the operator that she saw headlights in the driveway, then heard a bunch of popping noises. Here is what the police found during the course of their investigation. 51-year-old Robbie Doerr was dead on the driveway near his pickup truck. He had sustained 2 gunshot wounds to the back and 1 to his neck. The police determined that the murder occurred after Robbie returned home from working a 12-hour shift at the fire station. He was ambushed after exiting his truck. Various people in the neighborhood reported to the police that they heard 5 gunshots, but no one saw anything. Becky told the police that she had been in the kitchen of her house cooking dinner when she heard the gunshots. An autopsy revealed that Robbie had been struck with 2 different types of projectiles, .45 Colt and buckshot. There are a few firearms which can fire both of these projectiles. One of them is the Taurus Judge revolver. On March 4, 2019, the police conducted a traffic stop on a 2017 Jeep Compass occupied by Mandy and Larry Sr. Again, Mandy is Becky's sister. Officers found a gun in the SUV. Larry Sr. was not permitted to have a firearm because he was a convicted felon. That same day, the police detained Becky and Larry Sr.'s son, Larry Jr. Becky unwisely agreed to talk to the police. They had made an important discovery on her cell phone. She had received a call from Larry Sr. just a few minutes before the murder. The call took place at 6:46 p.m. and ended at 6:51 p.m. Again, the first 911 call was placed at 7:05 p.m. Right after the call was completed, Becky deleted the record of the call from her cell phone. Initially, Becky said that she did not remember receiving the call right before the murder. Later, she admitted the call came from Larry Sr., but said she didn't mention it because she knew he had a criminal history. In addition, she did not want people to believe that she was having an affair with Larry Sr. Becky was charged with obstruction of justice and false informing. Those charges were dropped 7 months later in October 2019. As I mentioned, the police had also detained Larry Jr. On his phone, they found a photograph of a Taurus Judge revolver. As I mentioned, this revolver is capable of firing both .45 Colt and .410 bore shotgun shells. Larry Jr. admitted that in September 2018, he took the Taurus Judge from a local pawn shop where he worked and gave it to his father, Larry Sr. So Larry Jr. stole the gun. Ultimately, Larry Jr. pleaded guilty to a weapons charge, but was not sentenced to prison. Larry Jr. also told the police about guns his father had buried in the backyard of a residence. The police searched Larry Sr.'s backyard and found a box containing firearms. The serial numbers of the weapons had been removed. The Taurus Judge was not among the weapons found. Larry Richmond Sr. was arrested for possessing firearms. In August 2020, he pleaded guilty to federal firearms charges and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Despite various people being charged with crimes, no one had been charged with Robbie's murder. The homicide investigation continued, and there was a big break in the case in June 2021. The police examined cell phone data from Larry Sr.'s phone and determined that it was near Robbie's house on the day of the murder at 6:35 p.m., a half hour before the first 911 call. The phone was deactivated at 6:52 p.m. and reactivated at 7:14 p.m., so the phone was off when the murder occurred. At about 7:11 p.m., Larry Sr. was captured on surveillance video at a gas station near Robbie's house. The police discovered that Larry Sr. was using a police scanner app just a few minutes before Robbie was shot, and again 9 minutes after. In addition, he had used his cell phone to access images of Robbie Doerr. On July 12, 2022, Becky was charged with perjury. Just over a month later, on August 18, Becky and Larry Sr. were charged with murder. Becky went on trial first, starting on May 6, 2024. On May 14, she was found guilty of murder and conspiracy to commit murder. On July 17, 2024, she was sentenced to a total of 90 years in prison, 60 years for the murder and 30 years for the conspiracy. Becky's projected release date is February 16, 2090, when she will be 118 years old. If she wants to live that long, she may want to consider exercising and eating right in prison. At the time I'm making this video, Larry Richmond Sr. is scheduled to go on trial in May 2025. Now moving to my analysis. Becky Fox-Doerr maintains her innocence. She denies knowing anything about her husband's murder and denies having an affair with Larry Richmond Sr. Becky said, quote, "I am innocent of these crimes. I never asked anyone to harm or murder my husband," unquote. There are a few people in Becky's corner who argue that a deleted cell phone call is not enough to convict a person of murder and conspiracy. It doesn't really prove anything. The state, of course, disagrees. They argue that Larry Sr. had no reason to kill Robbie if Becky was not involved. She must have been the driving force behind this crime. This brings me to the question, was Becky guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that she was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Larry Sr. may maintain the presumption of innocence. However, the evidence against him is overwhelming. It is reasonable to believe he killed Robbie Doerr. There were 15 phone calls between Larry Sr. and Becky during the time the state believes the couple was having an affair. Robbie wrote a 9-page letter to Becky, which contained comments that made it seem like she was cheating on him. For example, he couldn't remember the last time Becky approached him for a hug or a kiss. He referenced a man coming back into Becky's life, and he wrote, "I see his text on your phone." Larry Jr. claimed that he saw his father and Becky kissing in March 2018. Just a few minutes before Robbie was murdered, Becky received a 5-minute phone call from Larry Sr. She immediately deleted the record of this phone call, yet did not delete any other phone calls she received that day. Furthermore, Becky initially lied to the police and said she did not remember receiving the call. Not long after Robbie's death, Becky appeared to be highly interested in collecting his pension. If Larry Sr. murdered Robbie without Becky's involvement, what did he have to gain? What was his motive? Larry Sr. gave a sympathy card to Becky which contained his phone number and the handwritten message, "We need to talk." Now moving to the exculpatory factors. Many of those 15 phone calls between Larry Sr. and Becky were not answered or only lasted a few seconds. Prior to the call that came in right before the murder, it had been 45 days since there was a phone call. Becky never initiated even one phone call with Larry Sr. Maybe he was pursuing her, and she was not interested. After all, Larry Sr. was cheating with multiple women at the time of the murder. This could also explain the motive. Maybe Larry Sr. was trying to eliminate Robbie so he could make a move on Becky. As far as the pension, Becky was not Robbie's beneficiary and did not benefit at all from his death. Larry Jr. claimed that he saw his father and Becky kissing in March of 2018, but that was before they met. There is no way that could be true. Furthermore, Larry Jr.'s gun theft damages his credibility. It does seem suspicious that Becky deleted the phone call from Larry Sr. However, her son said that she frequently deleted phone calls. Furthermore, it would look a lot more like a conspiracy if Becky called Larry Sr., but it was the other way around. He called her. There's not a lot of evidence of a conspiracy in this case. For example, there's no video, no audio recordings, no written messages that confirm any type of conspiracy. The state couldn't even conclusively prove there was an affair, much less a murder conspiracy. The police demonstrated that Larry was cheating with all these various women, but they were unable to prove that he was having sex with Becky. They would have us believe that Larry Sr. couldn't keep any romantic relationship in his life a secret, except that one. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I believe that Becky is guilty of murder? I believe she is guilty in reality, but I am not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. Larry Sr. could have acted on his own. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Becky and Larry Sr. were having an affair. It's not clear why Becky would have been interested in Larry Sr., especially considering he was dating her sister, and of course, the murder part. There must have been something about Larry Sr. that was irresistible. Perhaps he had a lot of charisma. Robbie knew about the cheating, but was afraid to confront Becky any more than he already had. He promised her he would never accuse her of cheating again, and said he did not want to lose her. Robbie thought by avoiding the topic of infidelity, it would just go away, but he was incorrect. Becky conspired with Larry Sr. to kill Robbie. During a conversation with the police, Becky implicated herself by pretending she didn't remember the phone call right before the murder. If Becky had simply refused to talk to the police, she never would have been convicted. It was her confidence that she could manipulate investigators that led to her downfall. Now moving to my final thoughts. In many of the cases I have covered over the years, undesirable lovers like Larry Sr. enjoy incredible levels of romantic success. This is a man who did not simply have a criminal record. He was a convicted murderer. He shot and killed someone. How did he have women fighting over him? Why does this keep happening? Here are a few reasons that some women may be attracted to dangerous men. Criminals often have antisocial personality characteristics. One of these is charisma. The man may appear genuinely interested in a relationship and pay a lot of compliments. Criminals tend to be intense. They move fast, which can be overwhelming. Some women describe criminal lovers using the phrase, "I was swept off my feet." A woman may have a desire to fix a man or to save a man. She might falsely believe that a criminal is complex, misunderstood, deep, and sensitive. There could be a fantasy about being part of the man's rehabilitation story. A woman may view men negatively, therefore think that all men are criminals anyway. What's the difference if she is dating a dangerous offender? If a man is convicted, perhaps the worst has already been realized, like he's in the clear now because he spent time in prison. Serious offenders tend to be excitement-seeking. This can be attractive to some women. The romantic relationship may even be thought of as an expression of rebellion, like it's us against the world. A woman might view the man as resilient, strong, loyal, and as a survivor. Serious offenders can be thought of as offering protection. A woman may feel safe with a man like this. She believes it takes a criminal to protect her from other criminals, like fighting fire with fire. A woman could misinterpret dominant, assertive, demanding, controlling, and aggressive behavior as a sign of love. The stronger the feeling, the more the woman believes the feeling points to a truth. It's almost like if a man yells something loudly, it is more likely to be true than if the man whispers the same statement. This is a flawed way of thinking, but unbelievably common. For some people, intensity equals truth. The final reason is straightforward. Sometimes women select serious offenders as lovers due to low self-esteem. A woman may feel insecure. She doesn't feel like she can do any better. In the world of true crime, there's an epidemic of low standards. Those are my thoughts in the case of Becky Fox-Doerr. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. One of the curious things I've noticed during my career as a counselor-educator is how sometimes people tend to make decisions that are really important, just like they're making a casual decision. Like if they go to a fast food restaurant, they're trying to pick out what they eat. They use that same decision-making paradigm for everything, for choosing an educational path, for choosing a career path, for selecting a lover, for buying property, all kinds of decisions. They all just get reduced to the same fast and inefficient decision-making process, one that is not accurate, one that is not thought out. It's like impulsivity doesn't really have any bounds. Impulsivity just takes over. If somebody is impulsive, they're impulsive through many domains of their life. It's not like they're going to be impulsive about some things and then think for a long time about other things. It just tends to take over. It's a trait that is pervasive throughout their life. This is an unfortunate situation because people are making decisions in a few seconds that have ramifications that can last for decades. Often they regret the decision, and in order to try to fix the decision, they make more bad decisions. So there's never really a time where there's an epiphany. At least sometimes there's not. I've seen other cases where people kind of learn, like they get it from their life experience, they realize what they're doing wrong. But one of the toughest things to change is that decision-making process. That is the last area, or at least one of the last areas, when somebody matures. It's like they just hold on to that excitement, that component of the impulsivity is something they can't let go. It makes life worth living, I guess, in a way, but really, eventually they can see that it's destroying their life. In many videos, I've talked about the dangers of impulsivity. It's really one of the worst characteristics that there is. And this case offers yet another example of how destructive it is.